Welcome you all for a critical analysis of Roland Barthes' Science versus Literature. Roland Barthes. Roland Barthes was a seminal figure in the late 20th century literary criticism. Barthes was a French literary critic, social theorist, philosopher, and semiotician. Semiology is the study of signs and symbols, and it includes the study of how meaning is constructed and understood. It is to be noted that Barthes influenced the development of theories like structuralism, semiology, existentialism, Marxism, and post structuralism. Barthes' most renowned work is an essay titled The Death of the Author, published in the year 1967. In this essay, Barthes strongly opposes the incorporation of an author's background, education, caste, ethnicity, religion, nationality, and gender while interpreting any literary works. Barthes was of the view that a writer and his work are separate entities, and so they must not be related when his work is critically examined. Other notable works of Barthes include Writing Degree Zero, published in the year 1953, Mythologies, published in the year 1957, The Pleasure of the Text, published in the year 1975, S by Z, an essay, published in the year 1975. In all his works, Barthes expresses his thoughts by saying that by sticking to a certain style and convention of writing, authors often lose their original form, which leads to lack of creativity and unoriginality. All in all, Barthes maintained a unique literary philosophy and a vague, eccentric writing style which was widely copied by writers worldwide. He inspired various philosophers and thinkers like Michel Foucault, Jacques Lacan, and Jacques Derrida. No doubt, Barthes' works are ever changing and ever adaptive, providing new insights to literary philosophers even today. The essay Science versus Literature demonstrates Barthes' critical mind and the gracefulness of his own use of language. Barthes here provides us with two distinct ways in which language is elaborated, first by science and then by literature. Barthes points out that literature has the sole responsibility for language, whereas in science, a language is nothing. Barthes begins the essay by explaining the use of language in literature and science. Scientists treat language as a tool, and for them, language is merely an instrument. In literature, language itself becomes the most important element. For scientists, language should be clear, precise, and objective. In contrast, in literature, language is everything. In a sense, language is its very world. Its function is not simply to convey a message. To scientists, the subject matter or content they wish to communicate is the most important. The language in which such messages are communicated is unimportant. In literature, language has a number of stylistic roles. Barthes points out that language is literature's domain of being and emphasizes form over content as the subject of the message. Form deals with genre of a text like scripts, sonnets, lyric or novels, etc., and how it appears in a certain works of literature. The form refers to the style and structure of a literary work, whereas the content refers to the plot, character, setting, and themes. Science prefers more precise and consistent language because for scientists, language is nothing. In the sense, it is grammatically and stylistically, science does not always have standard English, but it is much easier to understand. Literature, with the help of language, can shake the essential concepts of culture. Literature also becomes revolutionary in politics by the use of language. The contrast between science and literature is especially important to structuralists. Structuralism has emerged from linguistics and found its object in literature. Structuralism focuses on contrasting ideas and attempts to show how they relate to the whole structure. I can give an example of structuralism. For example, a structuralist will explain not only about how cars are used, but also about how engine is connected to the drivetrain, the seats, steering column, wheels, etc. What it is for is not explanatory in structuralism, but structuralists assign the level of explanation to the argument of component parts. Linguistics means study of human speech and the modification of language, and is also called scientific study of language. Structuralism and linguistics are similar and both are homogeneous according to Barthes. Structuralism can help one understand the elements of literature and how they work. Literature is known in all fields of science. However, a science of literature is not a satisfactory one to structuralism because structuralism is unable to solve the dilemma or confusion between literature and science. At every level of literature, structuralist analysis is especially appropriate. Scientists are using a language that is superior to others. According to Barthes, there is no such thing as a neutral use of language as scientists claim. For Barthes, the claim of scientists to have achieved such a language must be challenged. The role of structuralists, according to Roland Barthes. Structuralists should not aim simply to be another scientific approach to literature. Instead, structuralists should place the actual subversion of scientific language at the center of its program. Barthes further advises that a structuralist can be a good writer by focusing on the language as the medium of thought. Structuralists should also be aware of and should highlight the paradoxes involved in their own use of language. Paradoxes in the sense a contradictory or an absurd or confusing statement. The final point that Barthes emphasizes is that pleasure. According to Barthes, science suppresses the pleasures of language and these need to be developed and emphasized. Science has a negative attitude towards pleasure. Barthes replaces the term pleasure with errors of language. For Barthes, science should give some pleasure or errors of language so that science can achieve the status of literature. Barthes further points that literature should also advocate the awareness of the sovereignty of language. In the sense, literature should support the power or the supremacy of language. Thank you.